to another episode of Tween Book Bites here at the Scott County Public Library in Georgetown, Kentucky. I'm Miss Kelly, this is Miss Mary Lou. Happy 2022! Yes! It's the end of January for us, and it doesn't really feel new, but this is the first program back for Tween, so it is.
That's right.
Today, we are going to be talking about...
We're going to be talking about the winter fantasy.
I put her on the spot.
It has been so cold. Okay,
so much snow.
We always film this a few days before it actually streams, and it I don't know if it's going to be any warmer when you see this, but it has been really cold.
I've heard snow in the forecast again.
Yes,
so.
And lots of snow. I love it. Yes, so
I do.
We're doing fantasies about cold places and cold stuff.
Yeah.
Time to visit fantasy again.
Yes,
right?
the fantasy.
You want to go first or you want me to?
I can go first.
Go for it.
I'm going to talk about The Clockwork Crow by Catherine Fisher, which, as Mary Lou mentioned to me mentioned to me earlier, is she also wrote Incarceron, which is, I think, still pretty popular, so probably a lot of you have read it.
Real good teen fantasy.
Oh,
it's a YA book, but it would not be. If
Not
a person who
inappropriate.
doesn't mind a longer book, there's nothing in it that would prevent a middle schooler from reading. It's really, really good. One of my favorite teen fantasies. Yeah, really good.
All right. So our main character here is Saren. She's down here. This book starts off a whole lot like The Secret Garden is how it felt to me, a very classic British children's book. Saren is an orphan. She has very vague memories of being a teeny tiny little baby child in India. Her parents both died there. She was sent back to an orphanage in England until about a couple months prior to the start of the book. Her great aunt finds her and takes her in, but her great aunt is like super old and passes away 6 months after Saren gets there. So turns out her father's best friend is taking her in. His name is Captain Arthur Jones. He and his wife, Lady Mare, and their son Thomas have a large, basically a castle. They have a huge estate in Wales. And so our book opens. Saren is waiting at a train station on the way to this estate. And all of a sudden, in the waiting room, there is this creepy looking dude. He's scrawny and tall, and she gets the creeps out of him. And he's got this package, and he's like, oh, they're after me. Oh, they're gonna come. Oh no, can you watch this package? And if I'm not back, we don't leave it here. Don't let them get it. And she's like, okay. The guy never comes back, and her train shows up. She's like, okay, and so she literally gets on the train and then is like, oh, I can't leave it. Okay, so she runs back and then she literally has to grab herself on the train as it's leaving the station, and it's very dramatic. And she has all these grand visions of what it's gonna be like when she gets to the estate, and she's like, oh, they're gonna take me in, they're gonna love me like a daughter, it's gonna be amazing. Big surprise, it's not. The captain and his wife are not there. Nobody will tell her where Thomas is. She asks, and basically it's the housekeeper, the groundskeeper, and a handful of other people. Everybody else is gone. There are no other servants, and they're all really morose. And literally, she asks about Thomas, and the housekeeper is like, "That is none of your business," basically. And so she still has this package, right? And she opens it once she's kind of in the room, because this has not been a great experience. She got there super late at night. Nobody was being super nice to her. And she's like, okay. So she opens it because she's just curious. And it is a Clockwork Crow, hence the title. And she puts it together, and it's like, I need oil! Give me oil! Please oil me! Yeah, because this is an enchanted man. He has been turned into a crow. He claims to be a prince. It's a dubious statement based on other things he says. But yes, they are after him, as in the fae, the fair ones, fairies, yes. And so it kind of comes out. Everybody seems to in the town seems to think that Tomas has been taken by the fairies. He's been gone for almost a year, and so the captain and his wife have just they're so beside themselves. They have gone and they're staying in London, and Sarah is like, I need to find out what happened, and so that's what she sets off to do.
It's interesting because Incarceron has a lot of mechanical creatures in it. She must be really fascinated as an author with that.
Steampunk.
Yeah, steampunk.
I wouldn't necessarily call this steampunk except for the crow, but that did feel very steampunk.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, suggest. Yeah, very good.
All right. Well, orphans must be an uber theme here because all three of the books I'm going to talk about feature orphans.
Mine too.
All
now
right,
that I think about it.
There you go. All right. Well, and it looks like I've got a lot of books I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about all these.
Mary Lou found trilogies.
Yes, I found trilogies. All of mine are trilogies, and so I just wanted to show you that. The first one I'm going to talk about is called The Voyage of the Frostheart, and it is the first in a series called the Frostheart series. And these were written by Jamie Littler, who also illustrates them. And they're big fat books, but they're big fat books because there's a lot of artwork in here. Mm. Jamie Littler also illustrates the books, and the illustrations are just really fun. I was just so impressed with I've been telling Kelly, all three of these books I've read were just so good. And the Frostheart, I don't know how well you can see it, but it features these characters. It has Ash is our hero, and Ash is a 12-ish boy, an orphan, of course, or his parents. I won't say his parents are dead. He does not know where his parents are. And he's got this great little thing that sticks out of his head, this piece of hair. And this is his good friend Luna, who comes into the story later, and Shard, I think is this man's name, and he's.
That sounds ominous.
Mm-hmm. And this in the back is Tobu, and he is a Yeti.
Oh.
He is a Yeti, and he's a wonderful character. He is a Zen Yeti. Okay, so Ash lives in the stronghold of Fira, which is, the world is frozen, right? And the implication you have is this is probably our Earth many years in the future within another ice age, probably, because they keep talking about all these artifacts that they find from the time before. Mm-hmm. But he lives in the stronghold of Fira, which is kind of way out in the hinterlands. They are pretty isolated, and they just have a little village life. But one of the problems with moving from stronghold to stronghold, which is what they call their villages, is that in the surrounding lands, underneath the heavy, heavy snow, are these creatures they call leviathans. Leviathans are just these kind of snow monsters that will eat you or tear you to shreds if they get their little teeth on you.
Maybe both.
And so everybody lives in these strongholds with heavy fencing around them, and you just don't venture out beyond the walls of your stronghold, with the exception of the Pathfinders, which are ships, snow ships, sleighs, that use little wind turbines to move across the snow and go from stronghold to stronghold. And they do trading, and they kind of report news from one stronghold to another. And one day, Ash, his parents disappeared when he was a child, and nobody will tell him what happened. And he has within him song. He has song in him. And singing and music of any kind is forbidden. Singing and music is very powerful, and it creates auras. And the Leviathans sing, and they create auras, and there are these what are called song weavers, and they are usually banished from their strongholds if they cannot suppress their singing, because it is believed that their auras will mix with the auras of the Leviathan, and the Leviathan can infiltrate their minds and control them. And evidently some things have happened that make them think that. But Ash has song in him. He is a song weaver, and he suppresses, and he suppresses, and he suppresses. But he gets caught singing, and he's been passed from guardian to guardian. And the final person who has been forced to take him is Tobu, the Yeti. Tobu is an outsider. He came to their stronghold after wandering in the wilderness. For some reason, he is no longer a part of his own clan, but we never find that out in this book. I think you have to get to another book to find out his whole backstory. But he is pressed into looking after Ash. He's a cold person, and I don't mean physically in a frozen world, but he's not an emotional person, but he takes his job very seriously. So one day, this ship, this Pathfinder ship, comes racing into their stronghold, being torn apart by leviathans. They're just all over him. And Ash sees it. He cannot control himself, and he starts singing. And he sings to the leviathans, "Stop, peace, we don't need to fight, we won't hurt you." And the leviathans calm down and they go away. But his clan, his people, will not let him stay anymore because he can no longer suppress his singing, and they banish him into the wilderness to die. And Tobu says, "I'm going with him." But what he really does is he sneaks onto the ship, who's willing to take him out across. And Tobu also sneaks onto the ship. That's another story. So he goes on this great journey. He wants to find his parents.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to find a world where he can sing, and he wants to find his parents. But I tell you what, it's dangerous out there. And there are so many things that they encounter. And the action scenes are long, but they're really they're really heart pounding. It's just it's got great moments of humor, great action, wonderful characters. I just really loved everything about this book. It was so very good. The Voyage of the Frost Heart by Jamie Littler, and the second one is Escape from Aurora, and the last one is the Rise of the World Eater.
Oh my.
Yeah, I know, that's an ominous sounding title.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And that's the last one?
That's the last one. So good.
All right. I shall move on to... Okay, so full disclosure, I have not finished this book yet.
Yeah, I got one like that too.
Yeah. This is The School Between Winter and Fairyland by Heather Fawcett. Our main character... So part of the name of this book is because one of the characters is named Winter. But it is also set in a very cold climate. This is like if Harry Potter was told from the servant's point of view.
Okay.
Upstairs,
downstairs?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But I'll explain more. Okay, so our main character's name is Autumn, and her twin brother Winter. Yeah, Autumn and Winter. Apparently they were born within 10 minutes of each other on technically different days. So she was born on the last day of autumn and he was born on the first day of winter. They both have they're both supposed to have very long, they have white hair. I say both because by the time, as far as I've gotten, we still haven't found Winter because that is our main mystery. Winter went missing a little while ago. Why? So many missing people.
I know.
Man.
I've got more coming.
Weird, yeah. I do too. Odd mix. So, they're twins. Winter has gone missing. Autumn knows. She's got that twin intuition they talk about. She's like, I know that he's not dead. I can still I know he's alive. I don't know where he is. And she she goes into the forest and finds things. She's like, okay, so we found this, and they found a semi-burnt boot from him after he immediately went missing. And everybody's like, oh, the hollow dragon got him in the woods. He's gone. It's just the way it is. And even her grandmother, who she lives with, and is the I think beastkeeper. Is that? Beastkeeper, master of the words, the magical beasts at Inglenook is the name of the school that they work for. And Autumn, she really but she's stuck on this. She's gonna find her brother. And so one day she's running around with the boggart, which likes to take different forms, and it's not actually one of the magical beasts for the school. It literally just lives with her family, and it especially likes her. And it's going around, it's like, oh hey, I found this thing, and it is her brother's cloak, and she's like, I've been over this a million times. How did I not find this before? What is going on? And then she encounters the chosen one, Kai Morrigan. He is the prophesied destroyer of the Hollow Dragon. Except he's asking Autumn for a favor because it turns out he's actually just scared of all magical beasts. He can't take him at all. He like freaks out. He starts shaking. Can't do anything. And she's like, "This is the chosen one." Ugh. And at first she's like, I don't want anything to do with this. Absolutely not. And then her grandmother comes out and is like, "Oh, you're talking to, okay. We'll come in for dinner." And so afterwards, like during dinner, she's like, if I'm having trouble finding my brother, but there's this magical school, and he's the chosen one, is like this super crazy good magician, and he wants something from me. So afterwards she's like, okay, you know what, I will help you, except you have to help me find my brother. And he's like, but your brother is... And she's like, no, he's not dead. I know he's not dead. I don't know where he is. So it is the two of them hunting for her brother, and yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the next thing I'm going to talk about, this is another trilogy. They're all three trilogies. And this book really is more dystopian, maybe science, but which is kind of a form of science fiction. Dystopian means a futuristic tale, an imagining of what could be in the future. And generally in dystopian books, what they imagine could happen. It's not like, like wizarding and dragons and stuff. It's not fantasy. I labeled this as fantasy, and we don't have a dystopian sticker, which is really what would be most appropriate. But this is sort of more dystopian science fiction kind of way in the future. Really, really good. This first one is called Icebreaker, and it's the first of the Hidden trilogy, and it's written by Leanne Tanner. And this book begins with a professor, and he's got this silver boy. He looks, he's very human. He's really a robot, but he's silver, very, very human, the people who've made him and take care of him love him. And he is a repository of all the knowledge that humans have been able to acquire and the wisdom of it. And he is putting the boy in a box, and the boy's asking, why are you doing this? And the scholar explains, because there are people who hate wisdom, they hate machines, they hate technology, and they have the power now, but hopefully this will be over soon and we'll bring you back. But he's shutting him down, putting him in a box, and they're escaping to a ship. 300 years later, we're on that ship, and that ship is still, it's an icebreaker. It goes around the Antarctic, and is capable of like moving through the ice, and the ship has been going for 300 years. And we meet our first, the main character, her name is Petrel. And Petrel is an orphan.
Oh, no.
And the ship has managed to survive for 300 years, but there's been a lot of conflict on this ship, and they've divided up into tribes. And they're based on, the ship is huge, and there's 3 levels to it. The bottom level is kind of the engineering people. They're called the greasers, and they're the ones that run the ship, that mechanically run the ship. The mid-level is called Dufftown, and that's where all the food is prepared. And then the top level is called the Braid, and that's where the commanders and the captain of the ship, the ones that steer the ship, live up there. And you're not allowed to ever cross the boundaries. There's guards at every boundary, and there's these, lots of tension, occasional flares of violence. But Petrel is the nothing girl. Nobody even knows her name, the nothing girl, because her parents did something traitorous when she was just a toddler, and they were thrown overboard. They were thrown into the mouth of the Maw, which is this giant creature that follows them everywhere they go, occasionally breaks surface with its huge mouth. And when anybody dies or when they need to execute somebody, there they go, right into the mouth of the Maw.
Oh my.
And that's what happened to her parents, and she doesn't know why. So she has survived by kind of she can kind of go between the boundaries because she kind of stays back in the bowels of the ship and the hidden places, and she steals food or she begs food, and she's been able to survive this way. And there are these two giant rats, Mrs. Slink and Mr. Smoke, and they've sort of taken care of her and they've helped her in a lot of ways, and she has survived that way. And one day when she's up on the deck, she sees they're passing like an ice floe, and she sees a boy out on the ice floe. The way they communicate on the ship is they tap out something like a Morse code on the pipes. And she taps out a code, stranger on the ice, who doesn't put her name, she does not sign her name or anything. And the ship stops, and they debate whether or not to rescue the boy or let him freeze, but they finally decide to rescue the boy. But when they get him on the ship, they don't know what to do with him, because they've never allowed a stranger on the ship. Never had another person come on the ship. They're terrified of strangers. And they make the decision to thaw him out because he's just frozen stiff. I mean, not dead, but like frozen stiff. And so they can find out what the heck he's doing out there. And when he wakes, he says he has no idea who he is or why he's there. Well, Petrel just decides that she saw him. She's going to take care of him. She knows they're going to kill him when they get the information. So she steals him away. Now, the thing about this boy is he really does know who he is and what his name is and why he's there. But that's why you've got to read the book and find out what he's doing there. This book, again, the action, it's very exciting. The characters are fully developed. It's just a real page-turning story. And there's two others. There's The Sunker's Deep and The Battle Song.
Have you seen Snowpiercer?
Yes.
Because that sounds a bit like Snowpiercer.
It does have some things in common with Snowpiercer.
Okay. Although y'all probably haven't seen Snowpiercer because I think that's rated R.
You need to be an adult to see Snowpiercer. That is a really good movie.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. It's a little less brutal.
Well,
a little.
I should hope so, but yeah. All right. So for my final book today, this is my favorite book, which is why I saved it for last. The Way Past Winter by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. So we have got 4 siblings, Sana, Oscar, Mila, and Pippa, in oldest to youngest age order. Their mother died giving birth to Pippa, so she's been gone for a while. And 5 years ago, on the anniversary of their mother's death, their father went out. He was just so overtaken with grief, he's never come back. They don't know what happened to him. So they are effectively orphans. And in that 5 years, it has stayed winter. It has never moved on to spring, so they are in an eternal winter. And slowly, they are kind of running out of food. It's getting a lot harder to trap animals because none of them are able to survive. And one night, there is this huge, giant, burly beast of a man that shows up and knocks on their door. And Mila, who is pretty much our main character, you see lots of the other siblings, but she's really the one we see the story through. She goes and opens the door and is like, yes? And the guy, he gets off this giant horse, and at first she's like, what? He didn't just sink into the snow. And then she kind of does a double take, and all of a sudden, his feet are in the ground and covered in snow like hers are. She's like, okay, maybe I imagine that. That's really weird. And he's got a bunch of young men with him, also on horses. They're just following him. And he's like, hey, can we get some food and, hang out, make a fire, hang out around here for the night while we rest up until we keep on moving north? And she's like, I don't know about that. We don't really have much to share. And her brother comes out and is like, Mila, what are you doing? And she's like, crap, why'd you tell him my name? Ugh. And her brother goes on, he's like, hey, I'm Oscar. We don't have any food, but you're welcome to camp out. That's fine. And So
these siblings are by themselves?
They are by themselves. Their oldest sister is like, I think 17, they say.
Okay.
So she's basically been taking care of them. Her brother Oscar is like 15 or 16, I think. So they're making do, but they're alone in a house, and it's clearly not in the village. Like, they have to travel a ways to get to the village. So they have encounters with other people, but it's mostly just them in the woods. And that night, Mila wakes up and swears she can see Oscar staring out the window and talking to someone. And she's like, how is he even, what is happening? He's like, don't even worry about it, go back to bed. And she wakes up in the morning, and Oscar is gone. He has left the ring that he got from their father. He just left it outside the door. And Asana is like, cool, great, somebody else left. I'd love to go exploring, but no, everybody leaves me here with all the responsibilities. Cool, that's just great. And Mila is like, no, something is really weird here, because that giant guy was not normal, and Oscar wouldn't just leave us. He did not go, he was taken. And Sana is like, no, he definitely just left us, just like Dad did, whatever. But Mila and Pippa convince her that they need to go to the closest town and see if this group of men have traveled through there. On their way, they pass the heart tree in the middle of the forest, which is where they used to go with their parents, and their mother would tell them stories about his name is Elbjorn, the giant bear who is the guardian spirit of the forest. And the heart tree is supposed to be his, not cave, but his home, literally like the heart of the forest. They get there, and someone has attacked the daylights out of it. It is a mess. And they're like, oh, that's not good either. Okay. So they keep going, and they end up in the next town. They walk into like the giant meeting hall for the town, and all of their young men are gone too. They're like, cool, they went off going for riches with that dude again. Awesome, great, everybody is leaving. And
that sounds fishy.
Yeah, it does sound fishy. They're like, oh, it's fine. I mean, I guess they just went off going for treasure, but what are you gonna do? And so the local mage, who looks like a young boy, but he's actually like ancient, he walks in, his name is Rune, and he's like, I told you all not to trust that guy. And Mila goes to him the next morning, and he's like, okay, so I'm gonna help you. We need to go now. You've only got so much time before Elbjorn takes your brother and you are not getting him back. So, yeah, they go. Pippa sees them and is like, are you leaving me too? No you're not, I'm coming with you. And so Pippa, Rune, and Mila are, they leave poor Sana, who really wants to go adventuring. They leave her behind and make this crazy journey all the way north to Thule, the magical island where Elbjorn has taken all of the young men and is draining them to create his own spring and magical forest. And it is just
really good.
It's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to give away any more.
All right.
Because there's so much adventure that happens on the way.
So the last book I'm going to talk about is called The Ice Wolves. And this is book one of The Elementals. It is a trilogy. We've got Battleborn, we've got Scorched Dragons. So this is about, well, let me just start by saying it is about, we have two siblings, they're twins, and they are orphans. Yes, they're orphans. And they live in this this little village called Valendon, I believe is what it's called. It's a port city. I love it. It has a map. I love
a good fantasy map.
Yes, it's a fantasy map. And they live on this island of Valen, and that Valen is the name of the island, and they live in Hobart, which is a large port city. And Yeah, I know, it needs to go to Mindy.
Yeah.
As orphans living on the streets, they like living in a big city because people, it's easier to get lost in the crowds and people don't remember you. If you're a pickpocket and people remember you, and it's not good. So they survive by picking pockets and living on rooftops, and they're hungry a lot, but they're intensely close. They've been orphans for as long as they can remember, sharing the same crib. They ran away from the orphanage when they were 6, and they've been living on the streets ever since, and they're 12-ish. Well, there are dragons afoot, right? Dragons, and their parents were killed in the last great battle between the humans and the dragons. When adults find out that they're revered because their parents died protecting everybody. But anyway, that comes more later. Their society, their world, has these creatures called elementals, and in Hobart there are 2 types of elementals. There are the scorched dragons, and there are the ice wolves. And they're called elementals because they draw their power out of the elements of the earth. So the scorched dragons draw their power out of the fire of the earth. The ice wolves draw their power from moisture, from water within the earth, and they create ice spears. So they're humans that transform into these creatures, and it's passed down through heredity. You have to have an ancestor that was some kind of elemental in order for you to be an elemental. So every month in Holberg, they have a trial of all the children who are descendants of ice wolves, because the ice wolves are the one that protects them. It's their military, it's their police, and it is their warriors against the dragons. And every month they have a trial for the 12-year-olds to find out if they are, just because you have an ancestor doesn't mean you're an elemental, but you're the only one that can be an elemental. And one day, Raina and Anders, the twins, go down they're going to have the monthly trial, and they're going to go down there because it's a huge crowd and it's great pickpocketing, great situation for picking pockets. But they get caught, and or Anders, who's kind of clumsy, gets caught, and Raina grabs him and says, "We're here for the trials," and she runs him up to the platform where they're doing the trials to get away, and all of a sudden she starts transforming. But she does not transform into a wolf. She transforms into a dragon.
Uh-oh.
And everyone's trying to kill her, and she's flying away. And she's looking at Anders like, what's happening?
Why?
And he's like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden he starts transforming into an ice wolf. Never been heard that people from the same family can be different elementals. So are they really twins? Are they, who knows? But Raina is taken off by the rest of the dragons. She's trying to stay with him, but the dragons come and get her as she's kind of flopping around, trying to learn how to fly, and the ice wolves are trying to kill her, and they kind of swoop her off, and then the ice wolves take Anders, who denies that that's his sister, and he gets taken off to the school where he's going to be trained as to how to use his elemental. And I'm like a little over halfway through this book, and that's kind of where it's at. So there's a little bit of that kind of Harry Potter, like he's got this power and he's taken to this school to learn how to develop it. But dang, she is a good writer. Amy Coppin is she's written a lot.
She did the
Illumina.
Yeah.
Somewhat's another one of my favorite YA books series. But she's a really good writer, and even though some of this maybe sounds like Spirit Animals, that series some of you may have read, and it sounds a bit like the school thing, and the orphans, they sound like all kind of things we've seen a lot in a lot of books, but man, she just puts a spin on it that is so good. I'm really enjoying this book. Ice Wolves, book 1 of the Elementals. Frozen Fantasies. They are been really good.
So many.
Yes.
So unusual.
Yes. So next month, the award winners.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the Youth Media Awards were last week, January
24th?
One of them.
24th?
Whatever the Monday was.
Yeah.
So next week, I cannot talk today. Next month we will be bringing you our reviews of some of those.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know what Youth Media Awards are, that's sort of like the
Yeah.
Oscars for children's literature.
Mhm.
And they call it Youth Media because they also include, now they include some learning apps and they include audiobooks, but it is
Yes.
mostly books.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be talking about is
Yeah.
like the Newbery
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
Schneider Family Book Award
Yes.
and
Coretta Scott King.
Coretta Scott King nonfiction.
Yes.
We're gonna do some little advertising.
Rapid fire.
Yeah.
But I will see you next week
And
for a crafternoon.
And if you need any help finding some good winter fantasies, come see us at the library and we'll help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.